Ladies and gentlemen, the coolest thing you can ever do to attacking players who hit you with the fried liver attack is to allow them to attack you with knight takes f7. We are going to be looking at how to punish the fried liver attack by accepting it and then punish it later in the game. So I believe you'll like this video as well. And do consider to subscribe if you find it helpful. Let's begin. So of course the move order for the fried liver attack is e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight to f6, then knight g5. We know that the main move is pawn to d5 in this position, after which white takes with his e-pawn, and now you have three popular options to play. Yeah, first of all, knight takes d5 is obvious, but the main move is knight a5, which we are not looking at, and the other move that black can play right in this position after e takes d5 is the immediate pawn to b5. I love this move, guys. In fact, I presented this beautiful defense in the video that has popped up in the card above. Very interesting defense, probably one that you have never seen before. It's going to win you a lot of games, so make sure to watch that video. Spoiler alert, the correct move for white is bishop f1 in this position. Any other move may lead to disaster. For example, bishop takes b5 may run into queen takes d5 and white is already suffering. Anyways, our today's focus is not pawn to b5 or knight d4 immediately, but just a normal knight takes d5, which allows the fried liver attack as I mentioned. So I advise you to keep watching up to the end because I have a surprise counter gambit for you guys towards the end of this video. Just something you can consider to completely avoid the fried liver attack. That's if you won't like this idea. Anyways, let's begin with the pawn to a3 line on move 9, and let me turn on the eval bar on purpose to deliberately show you why the computer wants you to allow the fried liver attack. Spoiler alert, you always want to exchange queens as early as you can and whenever you have a chance. And point number 2, you have to play aggressively. Anyways, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight to f6, knight g5, then pawn to d5. So again, you will always see your opponents taking on d5 because what else can they do? Well, after this, I just recommend you go knight takes d5, just playing normally, allowing white to take on f7, but just go ahead and take that knight. Yeah, white is going to play queen f3 check, also double attacking your knight on d5, but you can simply defend that with king e6. So another thing is that you are okay to play with your king on the center of the board. That's why you need to be aggressive, and given a chance, you always want to exchange queens off the board to simplify the game, because in the fried liver attack, you are simply a piece up in the opening stage. So it is white who needs to know what they are doing. Otherwise, they will not be able to get back this extra piece. Trust me. So they play knight to c3, putting more pressure on your pinned knight. So I suggest you go knight b4. And it is in this position where white can go different ways. For example, castle shot, pawn to a3 or bishop b3. Let's start with worst, pawn to a3, which is played by over 77,000 people. Yet it's a long-term positional mistake. As you can see by the eval bar, black has a minus 1.1 advantage in this position. You just got knight takes c2 check. On top of your extra piece, you are going to win another piece, which is the rook. Now, one may argue to say our knight cannot escape from Sobibo. First of all, the top played move in the Lichess database, bishop takes d5, is a terrible blunder, you guys. And it's hard to believe this. For example, bishop takes d5. After this, you can just play king d7. Of course, you don't want to play king e7 because you're going to allow queen f7 check. And maybe in the near future, white may play knight e4 check, which may probably lead to checkmate. So king d7 is the way to go to maintain your advantage. So your king is almost safe here. It can only be checked by white's queen. For example, queen f7 check. Another point to write, whenever you see queen f7 check, you don't want to block with your bishop. Remember, the goal is to exchange queens whenever you have a chance in the fried liver attack. So if bishop e6 check, we have king d8 and all our problems are over. If rook e1, we can just exchange queens and move on. So let's say queen takes e7 check. That was our main goal, to exchange queens. If rook e1 for some reason, you simply hold on to your pawn. I mean, you're just a piece up, you guys. It's very difficult for white to get back that knight. They may try pawn to b4, intending to go bishop b2 next and win your knight, but you have pawn to a5 to meet bishop b2 with a takes b4. If they take your a knight, you will take their c knight, and if they choose to move their knight, there are so many things that you can do. You can take on a3 with your pawn, or even with your rook, or just buy time on this light squared bishop. Again, white has no time to take your knight. You go pawn to b5. By the way, bishop a2 calls for rook takes a3. Let's say take. Let's say this. You can simply go pawn to b4. If king b1, you go pawn to b3. The light squared bishop is trapped. Or if they choose to rescue their bishop somehow, well, you still have pawn to b3. And on the next move, you're going to protect your knight. And just like that, you will continue being up a piece. That's just how bad pawn to a3 can be. Let me show you another line which white players can try. Back to the fried liver position where white plays knight to c3 on move 8. I said just go knight b4 to defend your knight on d5. If they play pawn to a3, just take on c2 with check. If king d1, you take the rook. Again, bishop takes d5 check fails due to king d7, not king e7. By the way, if queen g4 check or queen f5 check, you're more than safe to play king d6. This attacks the queen, by the way, and this doesn't work due to king takes d5. In case of queen d3, you have no weakness or whatsoever. Just go pawn to c6. If bishop takes check, you can even take that free bishop. Because white can't win our queen because of bishop g4 check. And on the next move, we are going to get back that piece. So it's not that easy, you guys. Just because your king is on the center of the board, it doesn't mean that you're going to be checkmated soon. Look at the advantage that Stockfish gives black. Let's see what else black can do. So after knight c3, triple attacking our knight, and then knight b4, a3, knight takes c2 check, king d1, and knight takes. We have seen that bishop takes d5 check. It's not a good idea because we can just put our king on d7. But what if white plays knight takes d5? A better move? Yeah, of course you have to be careful. Even though you have an advantage, it is easy for you to fall into some trap just because your king is on the center. E.g., in this position, white is just one move away from giving a discovery check and probably win your queen or any other bigger piece for free. For example, if you play a defensive lazy move like king d6, that may invite pawn to d4 if white knows what he is doing, and you have some problems here, of course, which white can't easily find. For example, if pawn to c6, white may just take on e5 with check. This is a common thing in the fried liver attack, and your king doesn't even have better squares to go to. For example, king d7 may now run into queen f7 check, and this time you don't even have queen e7 to block the check. And obviously you can't block this check with your elbow. You'll be forced to block with your bishop, after which white may check you with his pawn, and there's like a mate in 7 from here. So the move to remember here after knight takes d4 on move 11 is queen h4, guys. For example, we are attacking the light squared bishop. By the way, knight takes c7 check, the top played move, is not as good as it looks because we can simply attack that knight. And now 2 of white's pieces are hanging, the bishop and the knight. Black has to play queen f7 check. Again, blocking with the bishop is a waste of time. We always want to exchange queens. Whenever we have a chance, remember the spoiler that I gave you. At first, let them exchange queens because this is now simple for you and the advantage keeps on growing on your side. You want to free up your light squared bishop. So how do you do that? You go king d6. Like always, white may want to win your knight on a1, starting with pawn to b4, but this gives you time to free up your light squared bishop. It's just too difficult for white to win your extra knight on a1 without losing some pawns or getting behind in development. So the main lesson here is that all the normal looking moves in the fried liver attack are questionable, and this also calls for active play from both sides. Anyways, let's see what else black can do before I show you a great surprise that I have for you in this study. What if white plays knight b6, which is discovery check, and at the same time, white is indirectly defending their light squared bishop, plus attacking your rook on a8? What do? Well, you can just evaluate the position with your own eyeballs. You can't go king d6 or king d7, maybe due to queen d5 check. So the move is king e7. Don't worry about queen f7 check, by the way. White won't mate you. For example, if queen f7 check, just play king d8 and there's no any other meaningful check. They can take the rook on a8, but you can simply go bishop d7 and there's absolutely nothing. The game is not going to end. Stockfish still says black is favored even in this position. Both of your kings are on the center of the board, so this just calls for an active play, let the best player win, not to mention that both your knights are trapped. So this is not bad. If white doesn't go queen f7 check in this position, and let's say they take your rook first, well, instead of taking the free bishop on c4, you have a better move, bishop g4, which traps the queen to the king. So the only thing you need to keep in mind is that normal moves don't work in the fried liver attack. You need to think in a strategic way. Anyways, enough of the a3 line. Let's look at the castle short line on move 9. We saw how bad pawn to a3 is, almost in all variations by the way. So the theoretical move here is castle short. Unfortunately, this is too slow for white according to Stockfish. Of course, not according to any other fish like bubblefish or catfish. Anyways, after this, you continue with pawn to c6, because if pawn to a3, you can just take that free pawn on c2, and you're just an extra piece for nothing in this position. Your knight is triple defended by your pieces. If rook b1, you can just save your knight like this, and you have no problems or whatsoever. King d6 is even okay here because white doesn't have knight b5 check. Knight e4 check is nothing. You can just play king c7. You are up a piece for good and for better. So this is clearly winning for black. Let's see what else white can do instead of pawn to a3 in this line. Maybe they can play queen g4 check, but once again you can just go king d6. Just play anything that doesn't put your king in a checkmate situation. So when you're playing the fried liver attack, you always want to make sure that every move that you play in the opening stage is the only correct move. That's what you do if you have an extra piece. Now let me show you the surprise counter gambit that I kept for you all this time. Let's go. So this line is suitable for rapid, blitz, and bullet, which also happens in the two knights defense with knight to f6. And after knight g5, you don't go pawn to d5. So this is for you guys who don't like allowing the fried liver attack. The move you can consider to play is knight takes e4 immediately. Look at the score statistics in the Lichess database, for example. If white plays the top played move knight takes f7, double attacking our rook and queen, well, we can simply go queen h4, threatening to mate on f2, and look at the top 3 moves in the Lichess database. These are all blunders. For example, if pawn to g3, you can simply take that pawn, threatening to win the rook. By the way, you are also indirectly attacking the bishop. If fg, the top played move, you don't even take the light squared bishop, by the way. You have a better move, queen e4 check, and you will end up winning the free rook on h1, and of course exchange queens, and you can go rook g8 if you want, or pawn to d5 first in order to create this little trick. I mean, there's just nothing that white can do in this line, you guys. Let's look at what else white can do after you play queen h4 instead of pawn to g3. So the other move that they play is queen f3 here, which is a positional mistake as well, because you have knight d4 counterattacking the queen, and knight d6 check, the top played move, doesn't work because you can just take that poor knight with your bishop. White is not going to mate you. You have king d8, and there's absolutely nothing. You are winning this game. You are just up a full piece with a better position. Another move that white can try back on move 6 instead of queen f3 is castle short. Again, this is a long-term positional mistake because you can simply take on f2, attacking the queen. If rook takes, yeah, taking the light squared bishop is okay, but you have to be creative in the fried liver attack or in most of these e4 lines. Just go bishop c5, putting more pressure on this pinned rook. If queen f3, the top played move, you have rook f8, and now the knight on f2 is pinned for sure. The light squared bishop is under attack. The rook is pinned. If pawn to g3, for example, the top played move, you can first of all take the rook on f2 with check. After queen takes f2, you now take the light squared bishop, and next it will be the knight which will die. Most people don't see these things, you guys, especially in blitz, rapid, and bullet. So don't be scared of playing these lines. The last line that I would love to show you in the knight takes f7 line, after knight takes f7 and queen h4, is queen e2, which looks reasonable, but again, this fails due to knight d4. You want to take on c2 in case of queen e3, by the way, which they play. You're just going to play knight takes c2 check and win the queen. On the next move, if white plays something else like pawn to g3, well, you can simply go knight takes e2. There's nothing that you could have done there. Just go ahead and trade off everything. What if white doesn't take on f7 with his knight but with a bishop? Well, this is check, so you have to move your king, and of course there are so many better things that white can play, but going by the most common moves, you will see your opponents playing knight takes e4, the top played move, which is a positional mistake because you can just take the poor bishop. If queen f3 check, there's this trap that you need to keep in mind, never to go king g8. Even though this is very difficult for white to spot, knight g5 is winning for white because you can't even take that free knight due to mate in 1. So instead of going king g8 back on move 7, you just play king e8 and all your problems are over. If pawn to d3, you go pawn to d5 counterattacking. If knight g5, you have queen f6. Remember, what you want to do in the fried liver attack is to exchange queens as early as you can. If they take your free pawn, take this as an opportunity to advance your other pieces. White is in big trouble. You're just one move away from winning the c2 pawn and the rook on a1 in case they play any of these highlighted moves in red. That's why the top played move is queen c4, trying to hold on to the c2 pawn, but you can just play pawn to b5 in this position and white is completely dead. For example, if they go queen c3, the top played move, white's queen is dead. Due to bishop b4, it is pinned, there's nothing that white can do. If they take your bishop, you just go knight takes c2 check and win that free queen. Hey guys, so this is just a side trick that you can try for yourselves if you don't like the idea of allowing the fried liver attack. And hey, if you want to take your chess seriously, make sure to check out my courses at www.kasperchess.com and get my Caro-Kann course, the Semislav, or my Gioco Pianissimo course, which is my favorite. And with this being said, thank you for watching my video. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Bye bye.